Guillaume Bélibaste, last Cathar Perfecti in France. Cathar Love 155. Let's start with a poem. Well, why not? I wrote it. It's not published. I do have a book of poetry out on Amazon called Petals, Leaves and Thorns. It's not bad, even though that's a little bit of self-advertisement. But Guillaume Bélibaste, he of course was that Cathar Perfecti, the last, and he uttered those, or prophesied, with the words El Capte Setsen An La Laurel Rodrigo, pardon my Occitan. But after 700 years the laurel will again go green. The point is, next year is 1321. That's 700 years since he uttered those words. So it's after August next year. That is the 700 years when Catharism will again grace the world scene. My poem. It was written in the 20th of June 2020, this year. Guillaume Bélibaste. Guillaume Bélibaste once confided in me, in 700 years we Cathars will rewrite history. In 700 years the laurel will again go green. Catharism will again grace the world scene. It was in Villerouge, Termine, that Guillaume told me that only unconditional love will set you free. In his life, he experienced love of both body and soul. For we need to love and be loved to keep our soul whole. It was a bright day, fine day in August in the year of 1321 when Guillaume Bélibaste was burnt under an early sun. He was the last Perfecti to die in that land of Och, when the Inquisitors lit the flames at 8 o'clock. Guillaume, an imperfect Perfecti who knew how to die, for he recanted not from torture, flames, he did not cry. He kept the faith. As well, he did not prophesy in vain when he foretold the children of light will return again. This is the village of the Chateau Villerouge at Termine, which is over towards the west coast, towards Carcassonne side of the south of France. Just a little about Guillaume Bélibaste, or Guillaume, depends what French university you went to. He was born wealthy, but he had a temper, and he killed a shepherd in a quarrel. So to escape the authorities, he himself became a shepherd in the high country in the Pyrenees. What little we do know about him is from the depositions, the statements made by the villagers, not by a number of the villagers in Montalou, when they had to confront Jacques Fournier. He was the head inquisitor at that time. He later went on to become Benedict XII, the first French Pope. And what happened, the Inquisitors, they rounded up all the villages of Montalieu, and Jacques Vernier, the Inquisitor, he interrogated each one of them, and in those statements a number of people of villages had actually met Guillaume Bélibaste, although he had never actually been to the village himself. This is the book, Montalieu. If you're interested in French medieval history about the peasants, the farmers and shepherds in the highlands of the Pyrenees, well, this is a book for you, because it tells you about how many sheep, chickens, the love life, all aspects of life in that village. And they were very, very thinking about washing their hands, but that was about all that they washed. They couldn't swim, so rivers and creeks were a real danger to them, because if they fell in, they literally drowned. They couldn't save themselves. Actually, it's a very interesting book, but this is what we know about Guillaume Bélibaste. Much of it comes from that book, and that's from the Inquisition. He organised himself at one stage a mistress, Raymond Piquier, and she became pregnant. So he asked his good friend Arnaud Ormery, and he must have been a good friend, because he said, will you marry her? So people in the villages, or people will think, society will think, that the baby is yours, and you know, I can keep my reputation. And his friend, as a good friend, did. A week or two later, they were divorced, and they split up, and she was back with Guillaume. There's a few things that he does say that was put down to the Inquisitors. He wasn't regarded as a great orator, although I've got here a picture of a Cathar. We're calling him Guillaume, why not? He's an unknown Cathar, and he's there. This is the picture there, and he's out there preaching to the locals. The thing about it is, he's preaching out in the open, because the Cathars didn't have churches. Their churches were caves, the leafy cathedrals, the forests, someone's home, out in the open. So they weren't into churches. Unfortunately, he was betrayed by a guy, Arnaud Sika, and whose mother was a Cathar, and who was burnt to death by the Inquisition. And he persuaded Guillaume to go to Pamiers, where he was rounded up by the Inquisition. I believe that this was the second time that he was caught by the Inquisition, and he escaped the first time. In any case, he's caught, and he was interrogated, and eventually taken to the Chateau Villarouge at Terminay, which is over towards Carcassonne, side of the south of France. And there he decided to starve himself to death. The Endura. The Endura it's a Cathar thing that once a person is old and frail and they're dying, or you're wounded and you're dying from your wounds, they will console you, they would give you the Cathar sacrament, the consolamentum, and from that point onwards, the idea was that you just die naturally, and that if a person's old, well, they just give them bread and water or whatever sustenance they need, but they're just allowed to die a dignified natural death. A little different today, being hooked up with pipes and tubes and who knows what, to live on for another month or two. But in any case, his betrayer, this Arno's seeker, came back and said, don't starve yourself. He said, get well. He said, I've got a plan for us to escape. But he said, you can't do it if you're not well. You need to be fit and healthy to be able for us to get you out. But unfortunately, they just want him well and fit so they could burn him. What's the difference between burning someone old and someone sickly and someone who's healthy? I don't know. But in any case, they then took him out, and on the 21st of August, 8 o'clock in the morning, they lit the fire, and this is when, or at that time, it was when he prophesied that in 700 years the laurel would again grow green. The laurel symbolises to the Cathars love, all that is precious and sacred to them. So whenever the Inquisition were chasing them and some were burnt, they would say, the laurel is wilting. He wasn't the last Perfecti to die. That came later, and that was in Italy. That was in 1345. But he was the last person to die, last Perfecti to die in Languedoc in the south of France. And of course it's he that made that prophecy. There's no doubt that more and more people are aware of the Cathars. There's more books being written. When I was at Montsegur, I asked how many people would actually climb Montsegur, which is the, what would you call it, the mountainous symbol of Catharism. And I'm told something over 60,000 people. And of course, a lot less in winter time, but that's a lot of people. So people are certainly becoming more and more aware, and there are already happenings or things that are taking place that next year, so people are well aware of this date. This was the end of Catharism, and if you read the book Montelieu, you'll find that it was really at the very end. And it's worth noting that when Guillaume died, Catharism was far from what it used to be. The Inquisition had really virtually exterminated the Cathars as an organisation. So there are only little pockets here and there in various parts of Europe, even in Africa. But Catharism, mainly through the armies of the day, the political systems of the day, they changed, and Catharism came to an end as we know it. But the ideals, the philosophy, and still there. It's going to be interesting to see how Catharism, the Cathar philosophy of unconditional love for everybody, everywhere and everything, which very much means our environment, our planet, how it is going to take its place amongst the philosophies and belief systems of the world in the coming years. For Catharism, the future means very interesting times. Bye for now. Talk again.